You're listening to Nuestra Gente with Linda Parra.
Thank you, everyone. I really want to let you know how much I appreciate you taking time out of your busy Monday to participate here today. It's just vitally important. As you know, the Ohio Department of Medicaid recently went through a procurement process to determine future contracts for managed care providers, and Paramount was not on the list. Paramount is an Ohio company that's been providing Medicaid insurance for 28 years and serving approximately 240,000 patients. These patients would have to find a new Medicaid provider as we're navigating a global pandemic. Paramount also employs hundreds of Northwest Ohioans, and that would mean hundreds of families would be affected as these jobs would be terminated. During the budget process, I questioned Director Corcoran extensively on the issue and didn't really get a good answer as to why Paramount would be excluded. I drafted budget amendments to address the issue and ultimately got language into the budget that would have solved the problem. Before the budget was signed into law, I reached out and personally called Governor DeWine just to tell him how important this language is. And then Governor DeWine vetoed the language before signing the budget into law. So I don't want to take up too much time since we only have about an hour here, but I wanted to let you know how we got to this point. This is unacceptable, and I want to hear from you, understand how this is going to impact you, and I want to continue to work to try and find possible solutions. So thank you very much for coming out today.
Good afternoon. I'm Lori Johnston, President of Paramount Insurance. And I also want to thank you all for being here today and for your great support as we have gone through this past few months. I really have to thank Senator Gavarone. You have been just a champion and tirelessly fought for Paramount, ProMedica, fought on behalf of our members, our employees, and our organization just from the get-go. You called and said, "What can I do?" And your energy has continued. I also want to thank the Ohio legislature. We really got support on both sides of the aisle. So Paula, thank you. Our whole Northwest Ohio group was really awesome. I mean, I just can't say enough about their support and how they fought tirelessly and made sure that that budget amendment got through. And then, as Theresa said, with a stroke of a pen, we all kind of took a deep sigh and stepped back. But I also want to thank Mayor Kapsakevich. Thank you. That's always a mouthful for me. But just you also have shown us really great support, and I really appreciate all you've done. All of you that are members of the community, and I've got a few of my Paramount Advantage folks here with me today. I just really want to say thank you. Many of you sent emails of support, letters, made tons of phone calls, kind of have helped. We've kind of, especially my team, helped keep each other up as we've gone through this. Not getting the award, quite honestly, was a total shock. Quite honestly, it's still a shock. Our Medicaid members represent those residents in our state who face the highest levels of health inequity. For 28 years, we've been driven by our deep commitment to ensure that all Ohioans have access to high-quality health care, and we're really good at it. Our historical performance speaks for itself. Being part of an integrated health and well-being organization has supported our success in serving our members. It allows us to provide better healthcare coordination opportunities. ProMedica's decade-long experience addressing the social determinants of health helped us as a health plan to see each member for the individual that they are and understand their unique needs. If Paramount does not continue in Ohio Medicaid, it will have a devastating impact on care coordination and support for nearly 250,000 Ohio adults and children who are enrolled in Medicaid. It will be devastating to the economy of Northwest Ohio about 600 Ohio jobs just within ProMedica. The timing couldn't be worse for our members. Our communities are still challenged and will for the foreseeable future continue to be challenged by the COVID pandemic. Paramount has grown and changed along with the Medicaid program for all of these years. We want to continue that opportunity and the opportunity to serve our members. So we thank you for being here today. We want to say we're not done. ProMedica and Paramount will continue to fight to stay in the Medicaid program, most importantly for our members across the state, but also for our plan's healthcare providers. Some of you are here today, and for our dedicated employees and for our business partners, and for the economy, good health, and quality of life in Northwest Ohio, your and my home community. Thank you for being here today, and I'd like to invite John Luscombe from Metzgers to come forward.
Thanks, Lori. This is great. This is a great turnout for a very, very, very important cause. Lori, I want to thank you and your team for being a great partner to work with. We really appreciate the professional relationship that we have, and it's important to us as a business to keep the business that we have for you. And it's very unfortunate that we're talking about lots of jobs being lost here in the Toledo area. Senator Gavarone, I would like to thank you for, is what we call at Metzgers, kicking the ball. You're kicking the ball. What I mean by that is you continue to kick the ball and be a champion on behalf of Paramount Advantage. And we thank you for that, because the voice needs to continue to be heard. And that's just a very, very important thing, and I know everybody is very appreciative for that. I would like to talk briefly about the unfortunate impact at Metzgers Printing and Mailing that this decision from the Ohio Department of Medicaid will have on our business. The decision of Paramount to not be included not only affects the hundreds of employees at Paramount that Lori had mentioned, it also affects all of us at Metzgers. We are a family-owned business of 80 employees, third-generation company here in Toledo, Ohio. Born and bred in Toledo. Love Northwest Ohio, support Northwest Ohio. It is really, really going to be a difficult pill for us to swallow. Not getting into specific numbers, but it's a substantial amount of money in business revenue for us, and we are not really looking forward to the decline in this business. As we support Paramount on the membership side of things with all of the direct mail and member correspondence and such, we can kind of see the writing on what's going to happen here with that work going away for us. And as a family business, as I mentioned, we're not all that big, but we've got 80 employees. We like to times that number by 4 for the amount of mouths that we feed in this area. So we've got about 320 total mouths that we consider that we feed when we look at our business footprint. With that, we would like to maintain the ability to keep this work somehow. We know it's a decision at a higher level than what we can impact, but it's very unfortunate to us that this decision impacts us at such a local level. So not only is it a decision that is going to be affecting Paramount, let's think about the trickle-down effect of the other companies that support Paramount in this goal of achieving proper health care for the Medicaid plan. With that, I would like to say that we all need to continue to fight, challenge the system, and keep the voices being heard. And thank you, Theresa, for all that you're doing on your end to help with that. Thank you.
Hello.
My name is Miranda Hoffman. I am the CFO of Neighborhood Health Association. For those that may not know of us, we are a federally qualified health center servicing Lucas County and all of the Toledo area. I'm here today to speak on behalf of our patients. We serve, the majority of our patients have Medicaid, and the majority of those have chosen Paramount consistently as their Medicaid provider. A large amount of the patients that we serve have chosen Paramount year after year. This will be a very complicated and confusing process for those patients, especially those that have only had Paramount Advantage. They will now be forced to choose a new unfamiliar Medicaid plan, or they will be automatically reassigned to another provider, many of which are new to the state of Ohio and not familiar with the community that we serve. Paramount is an Ohio-based plan and is very familiar with the health system in Ohio and Lucas County. They're able to help our patients navigate the health system, and they understand the community in which our patients live and receive care. From a provider perspective of an organization who the majority of their patients have Paramount, this is a huge administrative and financial burden on our organization. We will have to contract with all of the new insurance companies. We will have to ensure that our patients have a new plan and that we're able to obtain that information. We have to update our system with all of those new plans, and we have to obtain the information for each of those individuals that we serve. This is going to be quite an extensive burden when we are already under such short staffing with the pandemic, and so many patients need access to the care that we provide. Paramount has been a pleasure to work with over the many years. They are always responsive, timely, and they understand our patients' needs. With plans coming in that are not familiar with Ohio and not familiar with the services in this area, this is going to be a very complicated process for both our organization and the patients that we serve. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Robin Reese, the Executive Director of Lucas County Children's Services. And I say this all the time, but it's true. I'm the de facto mom for about 850 children, half of which are on Paramount. I have to say, this governor has been a champion for child protection and had some very innovative ideas. And so when my medical staff came to me and said, "You need to know Paramount is not included as one of the Medicaid providers," I was absolutely stunned. We have worked so hard over the years on continuity of care. These kids come into our system on Paramount. We don't put them on Paramount. And we used to change that when they came in here. We changed providers. We worked so hard not to do that because we realized that some of these children have been followed their entire lives by the same provider. They understand the population. They rise up to meet the needs of these children. And to change providers, it's just monumental. I don't quite understand what went into the decision. I'm here as the director and really as a mom. There's some very innovative things happening in Ohio. Director Portman has been outstanding. Ohio Rise is going to be a game changer. I want some of that same energy to go toward fixing this. It is a problem. You have no idea what it's going to take to change 400 children to new providers that don't understand the population. And as everybody else has said, I'm going to echo that. At a time when we are fighting for staff, we're looking at having to change over 400 children to new providers that don't quite understand the population. It is going to be monumental. And I really have to say this too, that when the opiate epidemic was at its height, and it's still bad. We just had a 2-year-old last week that overdosed, so it's still bad. Paramount allowed me to come and speak to their staff and recruit foster parents. And the company supported those staff. We did get foster parents, so it's very personal to me and my staff and to the children that we serve. And again, the solution for me is come up with a creative way to fix this, because You have no idea the problem that this has created in my system. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brad Topp. I'm the president of the YMCA Greater Toledo, and we're one of the trickle-down entities that will be affected by this. My comments are more in a broad sense. Alice, I think, is the only one that knows this, but probably 15 years ago, the Y was close to bankruptcy. And if it wasn't for ProMedica stepping forward to get creative in some business type of relationships we have, I don't think we would have been here. If you think about what ProMedica does within our community, every initiative, everyone that's out there, they are providing leadership to. And my concern is that because they are losing this, that they won't be able to serve the community like they have.
And I am a former foster parent, adoptive parent of 3 beautiful children. And as a foster parent in Memphis County, I knew we had supportive fellow foster parents, fellow caseworkers through the county who are amazing. But the one support that I was surprised to have was our case manager, Ellen. When my then 2-year-old, who could not speak a word, was brought into foster care, we did therapy 3-4 times a week, depending on what it was. And not one time did I have a provider tell me, oh, we have to wait until Paramount gets back with us. Because, as most people know, insurance has to prior authorize most claims, most sessions. And now that my child was able to talk, he has not stopped talking since he started talking, and I'm thankful for that. It gives me so much concern and fear, because as of this morning before I came here, I called his therapist. And of the 6 options that we have right now, they only accept 3. And they're only accepting 2 of those providers for new patients. Meaning there's a potential chance that my child, who needs consistency, will not be able to have services if this happens. And I implore everybody, write an email, use your Facebook, use your Twitter, whatever the case may be, that just help the children. I'm not here, I work for ProMedica or Paramount, I'm here as a mom. And it scares me that my children may not be able to get the care that they need. Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Joe Isaac. I'm the CEO of the Federally Qualified Health Center in Fremont and 6 other counties. I have worked with ProMedica since they started as a company in the 90s. I've been a provider of healthcare first in Toledo, and then when I moved to Fremont. We have never had an issue with payment. We've never had an issue with customer service. In fact, it's been outstanding. We've known who our reps have been over the years. They've come out and met with our staff, gone through the referral process. I think what's shocking about this decision, quite honestly, is that 2 of the companies chosen in this and have been selected did not pay us for a year. 2 of them that have been selected did not pay us for our providers for a year. And we'll be working with them again in this endeavor. So I really hope that you all, the elected officials, can do something to help us with this, because we're back in that seat again. And I've heard through the grapevine that the state has said that they're not looking back at that about past history of those companies. They should. They really should, because a year is a long time to go without payment. Thank you.
Lisa McDuffie from the YWCA, and many of you know the mission of our organization. So it should not surprise you that I want to call out the elephant in the room. It is true that a good portion of individuals that rely on Medicaid are people of color. It is equally true that this is no doubt a political scheme for whatever reason. And I call on every ally there is to please join us to become an accomplishment. What that means is your voice is powerful, your voice is heard, oftentimes more so than folks that are marginalized and vulnerable. And the very people who stand to lose are folks who most often look like me. It is important that we collectively speak up and call this out. It is not fair. Now, in the name of disclosure, I sit on the medical board, so I'll say that. But irregardless, it is not fair. When we think about procedures, many of us apply for grants all the time. There's criteria that you have to meet. In most instances, there is an independent review committee that checks your application up against the criteria, and recommendations are made. Now, my understanding is that was not necessarily the case. So it makes me wonder, how is it that a plan that rated as high as Paramount did is now in the middle of fighting for the lives and fighting for the very people who have a distrust of the healthcare system anyway? We cannot allow this. And I ask you to please lend your voice and your power and your privilege to help us speak for those folks who don't have either of those things when it comes to fighting a state bureaucratic arena. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Donnie Miller. Miranda and I work together. Joe and I work together as well. We provide services through, as both Miranda and Joe have explained, a system called Federally Qualified Health Center. We are federally qualified health centers. I would like to thank Lisa for her always unwavering ability to attack the truth head on. I absolutely support what you say, and I hope that you all listen to her as well. One of the things that either Miranda or Joe said, and it's probably because we all live this all the time, is that our patients are the patients, frankly, who are the most difficult to engage, the ones who are the most difficult to keep engaged, and the ones that cost the system the most money. One of the things that Paramount has done consistently is force issues of quality, follow issues of quality, given us the resources to keep those patients engaged. It's really a question of whether you want to pay now or you want to pay later. If you continue to have folks, predominantly poor folks, folks of color, folks who feel disenfranchised, out of the system, we will never ever meet those goals that we claim to have as a system. As a country, we'll never meet those goals. Equity is not within our reach if we continue to perform this way. If we kick out the people who are doing the best for the people who need the most. So again, as Lisa said, please use your privilege, use your voice, use your power, do whatever it is you can do to make sure that we stay on the path toward correcting some of the massive issues that there are in healthcare. This community will not reach a place of equity. We will not reach a place of equity if we don't continue to have folks like Paramount involved in the process. Thanks.
Senator, I'm Opie Ralphs, and I've been a healthcare attorney for 41 years. I represent hospitals and physicians and ambulatory surgery centers in Cincinnati, Columbus, Dayton, Springfield, Lima, Findlay. About 95% of my work is throughout the state. I have a healthcare team that is involved throughout that. I just want to give you one example because I'm looking more at the process than anything. Some of the players that were applying for this, they didn't have Medicaid contracts with my clients, physicians. So they went out and they got letters of intent. And when they submitted their applications, they gave those to DJFS and said, okay, here I will have this comprehensive network. And so at least one of my clients who represented half of the physicians and APPs in Warren County, after they submitted the application, they terminated the entire practice. Now, on the day of awarding the contract, ODJFS never asked, and the plan never disclosed, that in fact these letters of intent were false. They didn't have them. And so I don't know how many times throughout the state that has happened, but what is clear to me is that to all of my clients. We see major glitches in this process, how this thing was rolled out, and what is there. And is ODJFS really looking under the covers as to, is there adequate coverage? And is the things they disclose to us really accurate? Do we ever check it? And the whole notion of, well, we'll check it after the fact. Well, then it's too late. I've been through the certificate of need elimination, Obamacare, the exchange. 8 years ago, when they litigated on the same issue with ODJFS, I was one of 32 lawyers. There was an army of lawyers over this mess. I've never seen a more processed mess in my 40 years of practicing than what ODJFS has rolled out with this despicable mess. Whether Paramount gets it, whether whoever else gets Buckeye, I work with all of these plans. I don't think that's the issue. I think where the legislature needs to do is, and let's put the big elephant in the room. The governor wanted to protect the staff. Every governor does. And so when they roll it out, whatever issues they had, or boy, our process was great, I'm just telling you that that's just malarkey. I could stand here for hours and tell you of all the glitches in this process. This is just one example. And I think what the legislature needs to do is put a pause on this and come back and say, I'd love to have them under, I'm sure you saw Mr. Wagner, we saw a few lawyers in here, love to have them under a deposition and say, let's go through what you did. And I'm not trying to be critical, it's just that they need to clean up this process. I went through it once, and it was a mess of litigation, and it's just going to be worse. And what I would ask you to do is put a pause and really dig into this whole process, because that's where the problem is. I mean, it does affect a lot of people, but I'm more focused in, as I look throughout all my clients throughout the state positions, and not, I don't want to minimize the patients. And I'm telling you, the people on the front lines are telling you this process was despicable, and you need to do something about it. Thank you.
My name is Bruce Barnett, and many of you are not familiar with me, so I just give you 30 seconds on who I am. I'm a pediatric lung doctor and pediatrician by trade and training. I'm the Vice President of Medical Affairs for Toledo Children's Hospital, and just for disclosure, I work for ProMedica. I'm only going to talk about the kids and the care that we give them at eBuy Children's. I'm not going to talk about the effect on the community or the loss of jobs, because that's not my job, or how an insurance plan, which is the only one 4+ rated in the state of Ohio, can no longer be good enough to participate in the care of our most vulnerable patients. I know how stressful this is for our families. The loss of their jobs, the loss of income, increased costs for everything they go to buy, whether it's clothes or groceries, going back to school and those programs, going back to work. We're in the middle of a healthcare crisis, the likes of which we haven't seen since the early 1900s. The country is more polarized than I've ever seen, and I'm probably one of the older ones in the room. Who's in the middle of this? Our families and our children. COVID in pediatrics is coming. Believe it or not, we've been in this mess for over 16 months. It started out as primarily an adult disease, and now we're seeing it in pediatrics in the state of Ohio. It's come from the South, and it's now in Cincinnati, and now it's coming up from nationwide in Columbus. eBuy Children's is one of the 6 members of the Ohio Children's Hospital Association, and we talk every week about what's going on in the state, and it's clearly coming to us. More pediatric COVID cases than ever before. They're sicker than ever before, and we've already seen some pediatric deaths. Lots of bad rumors being spread. Lots of false information being spread about vaccinations, how bad they are when in fact they're not. We know that we don't have vaccinations for children under 12. Many of our adult population still hasn't received vaccinations. This is probably the worst possible time for a Medicaid insurance recipient to have to make changes in their plan. Paramount Advantage parents and their families have care navigators. So these are specially trained people who help our families, some of whom are not particularly educated in the ways that insurance companies work. They help them navigate through that system to receive care, especially for the most complex of our children. They help arrange outpatient visits, emergency visits, hospitalizations, medical equipment, oxygen, and trips to the various offices. Now is absolutely not the time to pull the rug out from our patients. And that's exactly what the state of Ohio is doing. I believe the change in plans with the loss of a local provider should be put on hold for at least a year, if not 2 years. We need to sort this out. Many of our families are going to be placed in plans that have never had pediatric patients before, that have no contracts or no communication with the pediatric providers. I'm a pediatric lung doctor by training. I'm not an adult lung doctor. I don't take care of adult patients. There's only 5 pediatric lung doctors in Northwest Ohio. They're all in my group, and none of us know how we're going to be able to prepare for the very neediest of families when there's no one who's contracted with these insurance companies. This is a disaster in the making, and to say that gives it credence that it doesn't belong. So anything that I can do and anything that we can collectively do, we need to do. This is for our next generation. This is for Northwest Ohio, and for Paramount not to be included, but 2 programs that are from out of state that don't even have pediatric subspecialists on their physician panel is beyond unbelievable. We need to do better for our families. We need to do better for Northwest Ohio.
I certainly echo and share all the concerns that have been expressed already. Not only directly associated with ProMedica and Paramount, but when you start talking about the spin-off jobs that could be affected through places like Metzgers and countless other organizations, you start to begin to understand why this is such a frightening prospect for someone in my position. We just came off a wonderful week recently with the Solheim Cup and all of the the concerts and the fireworks and what took place over in Inverness. One of the primary sponsors of that event faces severe financial jeopardy should this go forward. But we know all that. That has been at least intimated, if not said directly already this afternoon. My concern is what do we do about it? Very rarely is a decision like this able to be placed at the feet of one individual. Usually the political process is murky enough that there are a number of different centers of power that were involved. Not in this case. This case, the way it turned out, it really, the decision that was made was really the decision of one person. And just like Senator Gavarone spoke to the governor, I spoke directly to the governor. Several long conversations. I suspect many others in this room did as well. I'm not sure if Representative Setson had the opportunity to do, but I know, you see Chris Joseph sitting back there, I know he did that. I saw Mark Wagner at some point, I know he did many others. Many of us in the room did. One of my concerns is was how well educated he was on this issue. I sort of naively said to myself, well, all I have to do is explain to him, the facts, and that'll change his mind. He knew all the facts. There wasn't anything that he didn't already know, and they made the decision anyhow. He made that decision with a full understanding of the dynamics. So my worry is then that all of the facts and statistics and stories aren't going to matter unless we exert pressure in two different areas. One, this is a very political process. Some would say it's the most political process that the state of Ohio has jurisdiction over. Well, all of us have the ability to exert political influence. We're all voters. We certainly can each do our part to apply political pressure. But then secondly, and I guess now I'm looking at the legislature, if for whatever reason we have made our case to the governor and failed, if he was not swayed by our advocacy, if he was tugged by different political winds, or whatever the case may be, if we lost that battle with him, well then our recourse, I suppose, is in the legislature. We really need the legislature to take a leadership role in trying to slow this process, restart the process, or really whatever the legislature can do in its wisdom to provide a check and balance to something that we think has gone wrong. Now, at least over the last year, I've noticed the legislature has not been bashful in exerting its power over the governor. And so I guess I would hope that this could be another area where the legislature could advocate for Northwest Ohio, because I think that's what it'll take. I haven't entirely lost faith, but I don't know that the governor can be convinced at this point, frankly. I think a lot of us tried and had very direct, long, passionate conversations that just for whatever reason weren't persuasive to him. If that's true, we need help we need the cavalry to come in from somewhere else. And I guess I will add my voice to those who hope that the legislature can, through its power of the purse or regulatory oversight tools, can give us the help that we need as a health system, as a region, and as an economy that stands to lose pretty significantly if the decision is reversed. So thank you for hosting this meeting and being part of it.
Good afternoon, Johnston-Paramount, I'm CEO of Unison Health. Paramount is one of our largest payers when it comes to behavioral health. We have thousands of individuals that we serve and will receive millions of dollars in funding from them over the course of the year. A few years ago when Ohio went through a Medicaid redesign, they took a very simplistic process for funding people with behavioral health issues and created one of the most archaic billing modules that you probably haven't seen since the 1980s if you're in the healthcare field. There's been a lot of criticism with Paramount having difficulties paying claims during this transition. There were some issues with Paramount, don't get me wrong, but there were issues with every single payer. The difference with Paramount is Paramount sees individuals as people. And so if they had an issue or a challenge, we could pick up the phone and we could talk to our rep and they would fix it and we would get paid. The problem with the other payers is they don't see people. They see numbers. And it's more of a barrier to us getting paid or being able to provide services to individuals. So again, working with Paramount feels like we're working with a partner as opposed to just an insurance company. They understand the clients that we serve, they understand our mission, and they work with us on special projects. Now as a side note, I want to echo, I just think it's horrible, horrible public policy to take state and local dollars out of the community and send it out of state to for-profit entities. Thank you.
I think most people know the Joseph family have been here a long, long time. We have a small business too. We have a beverage store and we have some real estate. I'm chairman of the Lucas County Republican Party. This is something we have to make them understand. This is hurting our community. 600 jobs, high paying, high quality, smart people hurts. You're going to lose talent. You're going to lose jobs. You're going to lose direct access. You're going to lose a lot of things. And I disagree we can't change his mind, but it's going to take more than just phone calls, and I'm not really sure. I would have to defer to Mark on that. Mark, is a great political guy, much better than I am, and so are you, Theresa. So that's all I can say. If you have any thoughts for what I can do, I'm here. Where's Barb? I'm here at your request, and I'm glad I came. And Theresa, you know where I stand on this. Thank you very much.
Process. I'm Paula Exenson. Welcome to my district, in District 44 for the Ohio House. But I wanted to kind of give you a call to action. We've heard a lot of information. We've heard what the process was. And to me, the call to action is most important. And I think Chris really hit on it, that in Columbus, and it's not just the 3 C's, it's Franklin County versus the rest of the state of Ohio. Because as we were going through this process, talking to not only the governor, but to the speaker, to the Senate president about these issues, because I spoke directly with the speaker on a number of occasions to remind him about how important this was, not only about jobs, but also about the individuals that are going to be affected. It was clear that he knows where Toledo is. It was clear that he understood those numbers and things, but it wasn't something that he took internally. And I also think that when, at the end of the day, when the governor gave his message as to why he vetoed this language, it was to me very clear that it was mimicking some of the conversations that I had with some of my colleagues out of Franklin County. The director, Reese, mentioned about RISE, which is a new program that is part of this Medicaid rollout. And that's what we kept hearing, that Paramount was going to be a problem because it's going to impact this new rollout of this program, which makes no sense to me because it's a subset of what we're trying to do here. But that's what was being said. And there was another comment that I'm not going to say publicly, but if you ask me privately, I'll tell you. But it really showed me the lack of understanding of Northwest Ohio and its contribution to the state of Ohio. I'm not trying to do Wendy and Brian and I were looking at ways in which we can bring Columbus up here to understand that, number one, that the border of the state of Ohio doesn't end at the south bank of the Maumee River. That's number one. And number two, that we contribute a lot to the financial welfare of this state. And in order for us to move this forward, as the mayor said and others have said, is that we have to, number one, not give up on this issue, continue to raise it in letters and conversations, in opinions to the newspapers, not only to us, your elected officials, but to the 99 that are in the House. I forget how many's in the Senate. 33 in the Senate. I never remember their numbers. But each and every one of them needs to know about health care. You know, we're going through this redistricting process, and if you haven't been watching it, the plan, either Republican or Democrat, is for Lucas County to lose 1 seat. You hear what I'm saying? Lose 1 seat, whether it's a Democrat seat, Republican seat, lose 1 seat. We didn't lose 110,000 people out of Lucas County. Might have been close, but not 110. So what does that say to us? We've got Paramount that was dismissed. Now we're having this question about redistricting where we lose 1 seat and we don't really deserve to do that. So I'm imploring you, each and every one of you that's sitting here today, whether you pick up the phone, you send an email, you write a letter to not only to the Blade, but to the Columbus Dispatch, to the Cleveland News, that whatever their news organization is, that we continue this conversation, and we don't do it here in this room amongst ourselves. We all know what the issue is. We all know what the problem is. But if we're going to really impact and make a change, there's some of us that are opinion leaders, but every last one of you can talk to other folks that you know, not only here in Lucas County, but across the state of Ohio. And Paramount is not just a program in the urban area. It is throughout Northwest Ohio. So we have allies in rural communities as well as urban communities, and poor communities as well as black communities. But if we are only going to sit in this room and talk to each other about it, then we're wasting our time. So I'm asking you, and I thank the senator for pulling this together so that she can hear directly and she can have the information she can take back to those folks. I'm going to take back the information I have to my folks in the House. We're going to continue to work on it because it was truly a bipartisan partnership from us in Northwest Ohio. From the Muddy Maumee to the Indiana border, we were working on this and we did the very best that we could. And based upon, as I started out this conversation, the talk in Franklin County, we were stopped by it. So I urge each and every one of you to promise yourselves. Those of us that are lawyers, we always ask people, when you promise that you're going to listen to everything, I want you to promise us, the legislators, that you're going to send us the information and the foundation which we can stand to continue to push this issue. Because I know that the senator and I are not giving up on this. And with that, I'm going to give it back to you, or unless there's someone else who has comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. And we'll do one more because I know we are getting close to the top of the hour. So do you want the podium, or I'll bring the mic over?
And I'm with Zet Center. We are one of the largest community behavioral health centers here in Lucas County. We work closely with NHA, so we know Donnie and Miranda. We also share a lot of patients with Jeff at Unison. And for us, just like them, almost half of our patients selected Paramount as their Medicaid managed care plan. So this is going to have a tremendous impact on the patients, like they said. And I know that we talked about the immediate job loss of Paramount and some of their partners, but you also have to think about the providers too, who if they can't get paid, because we're in that same boat with those other Medicaid managed care plans who have not done a good job taking care of their patients, taking care of their providers. And if we lose Paramount, that's going to have a significant financial burden on us as providers and our ability to survive.
Now we've heard the consequences, the potential impact, and you've got the call to action from Paula Hicks Hudson. So I know that you will all do your part to make sure that the consequences of this decision are well known to the decision makers. Thank you all for coming.
We were gathered here today to have a discussion about the impact of the decision by the Ohio Department of Medicaid in the procurement process to exclude Paramount as a Medicaid insurance provider. We heard from a lot of different people in the community who'd be impacted in a lot of different ways, from the hundreds of jobs lost to the approximately 240,000 patients who would be displaced at a time when we're trying to navigate a global pandemic. The ramifications are wide-reaching, and we really had a great discussion from a wide cross-section of the community about how they would be impacted. It really took this discussion to a personal level, and I think it was really important to hear the stories. So I appreciated the opportunity to be here today.
So just really happy for the turnout today from our community to support the efforts of Paramount to stay in the Medicaid managed care program. We truly want to continue to partner with local providers, local businesses, and other community agencies to make our community better for everyone, especially those who don't always have the same access to health care. And so we really hope that today's activities will help us to gain some support to try to get the situation turned around. So we really appreciate everyone who is here, and Linda, thank you for being here to help get our message spread.
Well, we're here today raising awareness about a decision the state of Ohio has made that threatens the financial health of Paramount and ProMedica. Specifically, the state has for now decided that Paramount won't be a Medicaid provider for the state of Ohio, as it has been in years past. This would go into effect next July, and unless that decision is changed, hundreds of jobs could be lost in Toledo. The health care access to thousands of Toledoans, especially from communities of color, would be at risk. And so we gathered today with other opinion shapers to begin to spread the word that we have to fight. We have to fight for these jobs. We have to fight for Northwest Ohio. The governor, for whatever reason, unfortunately, has sided against us. But we think that our friends in the state legislature could take some action to preserve health care and jobs here in Northwest Ohio. So that's why we're here today.
Well, I think the important message today is, we have a real loss of jobs in Northwest Ohio. At least we're facing it. And the real problem is going to be that, if this decision isn't reversed, we're going to lose 600 really good-paying jobs in Northwest Ohio that, we really can't afford to lose. We've got a lot of momentum in this community. We're building things in the right direction, and we've got to do everything we can to protect these jobs.